I did a cold plunge. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I live cold plunged.
Tonight?
Yeah, and he went underwater with the phone just kind of above the surface. I was like, is he coming back up?
Oh, shit. Like
is
you
he
did it
coming
on
back up?
Instagram?
No, on Polo.
I didn't see that. In 3, 2.
All right, and welcome to the Reclaiming Man podcast. I'm your host, Scott Silvey, and with me, as always, we have the Southern Canuck himself, Preston Radomski, and Michael the Mastermind Beckwith. How you doing, fellas?
Doing good.
Doing great. Friday night, inaugural podcast.
All right,
Yeah.
so I wanted to kind of kick this off with a quote that I thought really summed up the origin story of Reclaiming Man and the three of us quite well. If you want to be free in the way your ancestors would have understood freedom, if you want more than permission and comfort and obligatory affirmation, then plant a new root or tend to an old one. Start a tribe or join one. Make bold mistakes. Show people the real thing that they've been looking for, the thing that they've tried to buy.
So yeah,
So
he
good.
was just prophesizing what Reclaiming Man
That's
was
exactly
gonna
right.
be,
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah,
Jack,
thank you,
Jack
Jack.
Donovan in his book, Becoming a Barbarian.
That's right.
And I'm curious, I obviously have some thoughts on this, but I'd love to hear from y'all on how much that encapsulates what you think about with Reclaiming Man, and as we think about an audience listening to this, how that fits into our ethos.
I mean, I feel like that quote basically just described everything we are in the process of doing and trying to do. So, you know, the three of us are trying to build something as a template to help guide people as we are guiding ourselves on a journey. We've started it, but that quote just hits home real well to me, at least.
Michael?
Yeah, specifically planting a new root or tending to an old one speaks to me as I consider the past several months that we have found this key to accelerating a really deep, meaningful relationship. It's just this really good metaphor for what we're doing here and what we're intending to do with our listeners.
Yeah, it's there's a couple of things that jump out at me with the quote or that really resonate with me. You mentioned part of it, Michael, with the plant a new root, attend to an old one. And I think what's interesting about that is that actually encompasses the three of us in a lot of ways. Preston was somebody a year ago I had never met, didn't know existed. We both relocated to Tennessee within a few months of each other, me at the end of 21, Preston at the beginning of 22. And him and I formed a new friendship. And in the process of talking about kind of the very early stages of what became Reclaiming Man and kind of sharing that in public amongst my social, Michael, who's somebody I've known for 10 years or longer, but we've been professional friends, but not really personal friends as much. He reached out and was like, yo, I'm kind of on a similar journey to what you're doing. We should have a conversation. And that conversation ultimately led to the three of us talking on quite a regular basis. And I know we'll talk more about that. And then the other part of that quote that I really liked is it talks about your ancestors and how they understood freedom. And I think a lot of what led to Preston and I, like our first round of deep conversations was talking about the history of a tribe, because both of us had used that phrase with our spouses and internally. We were looking to find our tribe. And if you go back and study how humans evolved within a tribe, was particularly men, our entire purpose in life was to stand shoulder to shoulder with our brothers, with our tribe, and defend us against them. And we, as a result of this, right, when you're literally relying on each other for survival, whether it's attacking or defending other tribes, whether it's hunting and gathering and helping our tribe survive and eat, you forge these deep and meaningful relationships with other men in your life. Preston and I really keyed in on how society just doesn't really facilitate these types of relationships much anymore. Men as a whole are taught to be far more fiercely independent. We're supposed to be able to figure it out on our own and kind of charge forward without the support of other people. If you think of a lot of our heroes in movies, right, it's the lone wolf assassin types. We've all spoken with quite a few men in our lives since we started going down this path. And one thing, a common thread that has emerged is that men in modern society do feel or share intense feelings of loneliness and isolation. And if you start to think about this in the context of the tribe, it's, to me, a big part of that reason is when we lived within the tribe, we knew what our sense of purpose was and where our sense of self-worth came from. And we had confidence as men in our abilities, because if you weren't capable of carrying your own weight within a tribe, you were kicked out of the tribe. And so you're part of your whole goal in life as a man was, in times of peace, it was to be a good man, meaning act with honor and integrity and still help contribute to and benefit the tribe as a whole. And in times of war, it was, if you were a capable man, you were good at being a man, meaning you could stand shoulder to shoulder, you had courage, you weren't afraid of battle, or at least it's okay to be afraid or to be scared if you're in battle, but you didn't let that control you. You were able to
Right.
control it, and you were capable. And in modern society, most of the capabilities that we evolved as men to have aren't necessarily required anymore, which is kind of interesting. It's an interesting dichotomy where I think it's wonderful that I don't have to wake up every morning and worry that I'm going to get killed today.
Yeah, me too.
And right?
Yeah.
Or I don't have to go out and worry about getting gored by a boar tusk while I'm hunting for food because my children are starving. But on the flip side, we've swung so far in the other direction to say, like, any man who wants to try to become the best version of himself, which one thing that certainly delineates your average man from your average woman, and this is probably going to get me on a watch list for saying out loud as well, is men are stronger than women biologically. And part of what men can do is they can gain strength. And in the past, we just gained strength by living. Just our lives were much harder then. And so we'd become stronger versions of ourselves. And now that's one way to become better at being a man, is part of what I would consider part of being my best self is being the strongest version of myself that I can be. Let's talk claiming man.
Let's do it.
So today we'll kind of run through a bit about what we call our 4Ws, which is really, what is this podcast about? Who is our audience? What journey are we taking them on? And why the hell should they listen to us? I've got 4 kids. They're amazing kids. I've got a beautiful wife. In every marriage, there's a reacher and a settler, and I'm definitely the reacher. So I've got a beautiful wife. I've got great kids. I've got a great career. I've got a couple acres, a pool, nice house, the whole works. By most people's standards, I'm an American success story.
Yeah.
And yet there's still something that I was looking for. I still felt like I didn't necessarily belong. Not that I didn't have a great relationship with my family and I love them dearly, but that there was something else, something missing.
And
So you
then,
might say that you and I are relatively new to being friends. We've only known each other for less than a year.
yes, correct. Yeah.
And
And
Michael
so,
and I have known each other for 10 years, but we've only really become really connected as friends over the last 3 months, that is.
Yeah.
right.
Definitely.
So just the way you, I guess I'll use the example of reaching out to us, just trying to build this tribe you mentioned with your family. All of us have beautiful children, beautiful wives. We've got careers. We seemingly have everything that anyone could want, but yet there's something missing. I mean, it's the tribe, but it's this yearning in our DNA to still be warriors in a sense and have this bond with other men. We're not going to go out. I'm not going to have you guys over next week. And it's like, all right, we're going to go kill my neighbor together. We're not going to do something crazy like that. But in a sense, that is still hardwired into us. So we were just, I feel, missing that and are on a journey to reclaim that with each other.
Modern society is so consumer driven. Everything is consume, consume, consume. And what they've been looking for is something that you can't buy. You can't buy authentic relationships with people. Like, that has to be earned. There's been that you've probably seen this on the socials lately. It talks about how abs can't be bought. They have to be earned. The 6-pack. It's the same thing with relationships. You need to have significant investment for mutual benefit into relationships in order for them to evolve and become interesting and meaningful.
Right.
If you're out there watching, I mean, I guess first and foremost, no, this is episode 1. We have a 10-year plan for this. So there will be lots more episodes. Well, one of the things we talk about a lot is massive imperfect action. It's much better to press that record button and begin than it is to try to be perfect first. So this is going to be terrible, but you will probably pick up some nuggets and pearls of wisdom. But maybe the most important takeaway is I'm currently on a call with 2 men one of which I didn't know a year ago, and the other I hadn't talked to in at least a year. And now I'm on a call and they're my 2 best friends.
That's right.
And Michael, in sort of our recording, if you will, he was talking about how we end a lot of our conversations with "love you guys," and that's not just a pity thing to say.
Yeah, there's love behind it. It's not
Yeah,
just empty.
right.
Yeah.
And so I think a part of reclaiming man was actually originally just us reclaiming friendship and reclaiming it with one another. And so I would say, kind of going back to that quote, right? It talked about how if you want to be free in the way your ancestors would have understood freedom, well, if you want to have friendship in the way that our ancestors understood friendship, for most of human history, Preston used the word brotherhood. It was a brotherhood. It was established by the men of a tribe, a small gang of men who stood shoulder to shoulder defending the perimeter, right? Defending us against them. And in today's society, you're not allowed to create us's versus thems because that's exclusive. And exclusivity, everything has to be inclusive. And this isn't an anti-inclusivity podcast in a lot of ways. What it is it's a pro-man, pro-small group of men, which I guess to some degree, by its nature, it has to be exclusive. But it's not exclusive in a way that's derogatory or negative. It's just wanting to be pro strong bonds with a small group of people. That's fundamentally what this is about. And if you go back and look at the history of men, those tribes, those strong relationships were formed amongst men of a tribe because it was built on courage, strength, honor, and mastery. It was this idea that if we don't band together and become the best versions of ourselves, our way of life, our lives themselves are going to be killed. Other tribes are going to come and kill us, or we're not going to have the ability to go out and hunt for food.
Right. Yeah.
And so as men, that's our lives, our purpose in life was to carry our weight within the tribe. Our intentions on a day-to-day basis were to improve the lot of our tribe in times of war, and in times of peace, it was to improve our standing within the tribe. And nowadays, if you have men competing with one another for status, that's frowned upon in society. When that's how we evolved for thousands of generations. And another quote that I think summarizes this as well, also from Jack Donovan: we care what other men think of us first and foremost, because men have always depended on each other to survive. It is triumph over nature and triumph over other men. It is survival and prosperity and life itself that give honor the golden glow which draws men to it and repels them from dishonor. The last piece I can say is that being good at being a man has more to do with a man's ability to succeed with men and within groups of men than it does with a man's relationship to any woman or other group of women. And I think that's a lot of what reclaiming man is to me.
So yeah, we mentioned it earlier, defeating isolation, which is something that I feel modern men are struggling with. I guess an example is as I just turned 40 this year, and when I had moved out
Don't
from
look a day over
California,
42, buddy.
oh, this gray beard is just keeping the youth going strong. But we had the homeschool group out in California that I had made some really good friends with. And we joined in 2020, right before COVID hit. And it took some time. And by the time I'd left, we were hanging out and just having guys' night out. And then moving out here, having to restart all that. It's really interesting when you watch your children just make friends instantly with with other children. They just do it so fast. And as adults, we're just so in our heads, and it's like, how am I going to make friends with this other dad? I don't even know anything about him. But it came down to, I know I needed it. I think you knew the same thing. And I think most men know we can't do this alone. The whole lone wolf mentality you'd mentioned earlier is just, it doesn't benefit anybody. It doesn't benefit your family. It doesn't benefit you. We want to help give men tools to forge brotherhoods with men in their community, with men that are in their lives.
Yeah.
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 I think we covered a bunch of things around what reclaiming man is.
Mm-hmm.
Who is our avatar? Anybody who resonated with what we said in the first 15 minutes, that's our avatar,
Mm-hmm.
right? What can our audience expect from listening to this podcast? I mean, to some degree, we haven't been explicit on that, but I think part of what we've definitely been focusing on so far is, hey, do you want a best friend? That's a journey that you'll go on.
Yeah.
And then who are we and why should anyone bother? Well, if what we've been talking about with reclaiming friendship is resonating, then we already are. that's why you should bother, because it's resonating with you.
It's literally any man that we're interested in bringing into the tribes and helping find a tribe,
Mhm.
even if it's not with us specifically, with some people in their lives. Speaking to the make bold mistakes piece, right? I think a big part of it is the fear of failure, the fear of getting canceled, the fear of
Right.
X, right? And I think
What is
that's,
it you were saying the other day, Michael? The number of times kids hear no by the time they're 5? Talk about that. 'Cause I think that's
yeah, yeah. By the time we're 5, we hear no 40,000 times,
how many
and
times do
you
we hear
hear
yes,
yes 5,000 times. So
right?
we're, it's just ingrained at a young age that what we're doing isn't right. And
Right.
it's that type of mentality I think that we're really trying to dispel and change
Well,
amongst each other.
even look at it in terms of education. When we go to school, if you get a wrong answer or if you get a lot of wrong answers, you failed.
Yeah.
And so that idea of making mistakes and failure and not and having that not be okay, that is ingrained in us at a young age. And the people who are most successful in life are almost always the people who have failed the most as well. Failure is not the opposite of success. Quitting is. And so this idea that failure is a bad thing, part of our core ethos here at Reclaiming Man and just the three of us as individuals in life is to take massive imperfect action,
Right.
right? And it's this idea of being okay with going out and failing, but learning from it. And another quote that Michael likes to talk about is learn, earn, return, right? Why don't you go ahead and kind of talk about what that means, actually?
Yeah. The reality is each of us came to this group in a stage of learning
Hmm.
various things about our lives, different parts of our lives. We're going to go into a lot of it. We have dozens of ideas for podcasts as a result of the things that we're learning. But once we learn something, this allows us to utilize what we've learned practically and apply it.
Hmm.
And it's this cycle of learning and earning and returning, both to more learning, but also to people, right? And sharing what you've learned. Because once you learn something, you can share it, you can teach it, and it brings you back again to more opportunities to learn, more opportunities to grow. And this quote that you shared is really key. It's really essential to what we're talking about with Reclaiming Man. And I think more than anything, we want to have conversations with each other that we have been having, but in the context of a podcast. So you can experience some of the learning that we are, some of the hardship that we're going through, some of the
Hmm.
challenges. And it's,
You had just mentioned the sharing aspect of what we are going through. Because when we first started, I think it was early December, Scott and I had been friends for less than a year. Michael and Scott had been friends for years, but hadn't seen each other for a while. And Scott brought us all into this video chat that we utilize. And I felt like our growth in our community, us hanging out in there and communicating our growth and challenging each other and leveling up and being accountable on day to day little tiny things. We grew in a month massively as
yeah,
individuals and as friends and as a group. And we felt we should share this concept or how we do this with other people because we want other men to benefit.
like Polo allows us to hang out without being physically present. It allows us to hang out asynchronously, which is something like it's a hard concept to really grasp until you do it.
Yeah.
But we've spent on Polo, I bet 50 to 100 hours.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm wrong, but the statistic that I heard that it takes 100 hours of hanging out with somebody to become like a good friend, 200 hours to become a best friend. I mean, we're well on our way there in a couple months, a few months,
Hmm.
right? And I think that's the type of thing.
I think, well, I've talked to other men and friends, and it's hard to make friends as you get into your later years of life. Like when Scott brought you into my life, Michael, I had no reservations because it was just like, well, I mean, I know Scott, I trust Scott. Like this Michael guy must be a good guy. And I mean, it'd be easy to just not give him a chance. But ultimately, like if he is a good guy, where's that going to get me? So I just kind of dove in and I think we all did. And we're just benefiting hugely from that.
I think it just goes back to when Preston and I became friends last summer. One of the initial conversation. So Preston mentioned our wives are in the same homeschooling group. And so the wives became really good friends. They see each other every week. They were clicking. And they're like, all right, let's get the dads together too. Then Preston and I, we went, the first time we met was at the zoo. And it's like, I'm going to the zoo with some dude that I've never met. And it's like, it'd be easy to just sit there and talk about, oh, the weather's great today. Just kind of the standard bullshit surface level stuff that men do, especially when you go on a man date with another man that you're set up from your wives. Like,
Yeah.
that's just what you talk about. But pretty quickly, him and I really recognized that we both were searching for something different, for something new. And what we were looking for was our tribe. When you look at society, and for most of human history, we evolved in this tight knit small group of small tribe of men. How is it different in modern society? I mean, I think that's part of the challenge is historically we had purpose in our day-to-day life. We lived our lives with intention.
Yeah.
We we got our sense of self-worth from our ability to carry our own weight within the tribe. And it was very easy to measure that because it was a very small group of people. If you were capable of standing shoulder to shoulder with the men of your tribe and defending against invaders, you had that sense of belonging, that sense of purpose. And to me, that is actually the root of the problem in modern society. I think it's a wonderful thing that in society, we don't wake up every morning wondering if we're going to get raided and invaded and die. I have nothing but respect for our forefathers for helping to develop civilization in a way that doesn't require that. But on the flip side, that is how we evolve. And that doesn't exist in modern society. And so if it doesn't exist today, but we're hardwired to seek that, that's a big part of the problem. I've got a beautiful wife. I've got 4 amazing children. I've got a good career. I've got a nice house, some acreage. I've got a pool. Most people would say my life is a success. And those aspects of my life, I would certainly say have been successful. But on the flip side, I was still missing something. I still had this sense of loneliness that I couldn't really explain. Because it's like, not only did I feel lonely, but then I felt guilty about being lonely.
Hmm.
It's like, well, why am I lonely? My wife is amazing. My kids are phenomenal. Like they want nothing more than to play with dad. And so for me, it was that was part of what Preston and I started talking about almost right away was I think we both realized, yo, I'm looking for a tribe. Yo, I'm looking for a tribe. Well, what does that mean to you? Why are we looking? It wasn't just like we started asking why a lot. Well, why? Why do we feel this way? What is it that we feel like we're missing? And that's where I think we individually arrived on this idea of we lack those deep and meaningful connections with other men that historically generations of men have had for thousands of generations.
They needed multiple men to just go out and do all the hunting and to build the huts and to like collect the wood. And it's just like
Right.
that is hardwired in us for
Right.
so many
And
years.
yes, you need to be able to carry your own weight, but there's still an interdependency among the gang in the tribe to do all those things together. The studies show that we can have at most 150 meaningful connections in our life, active connections at any one time. And so it's not being connected to a billion people that matters. It's how can I be more connected to the small group of people that I'm even capable of interacting with, let alone the even smaller group of people that I'm going to form a tribe with. And one of the things that has been really interesting for the 3 of us is how we've communicated. Like we've actually only been physically located in the same presence for 2 days total. And what a great 2 days that was.
Heck yeah.
But even Preston and I mean, we live a half an hour from each other and we see each other, what, maybe once or twice a month?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes more, it just kind of depends.
Yeah.
It's just
Right.
life is life.
One of the things that I'm completely blown away by is if you had told me a year ago, I was new to Tennessee. I'd been here. We got here about 16 months ago, right? I knew nobody here, almost nobody. So we were starting over. Preston got here in January and they knew nobody. They were starting over. And then you fast forward and now I'm starting a podcast with my 2 best friends, like dudes who I've known Preston for a little less than a year. I've known Michael for longer, but we've only really become close since maybe the 4th quarter of last year. But we have built and established like really meaningful relationships with one another. How did that didn't just, we didn't just wave a magic wand. Like, let's talk about how that happened. Obviously, the three of us have become very good friends, but we've done it without getting together on a regular basis and seeing each other. And I think for the three of us, we've only spent 2 days together physically in person. Michael's up in Minnesota and Preston and I are in Tennessee. But even Preston and I, we're a little over half an hour away and we've got busy lives and kids and all that. So we might only see each other once or twice a month, more in a good month, maybe. So I know the three of us, we've really not spent a whole lot of time together in person, a grand total of 2 days in our lives. And yet we have been able to form very interesting and meaningful conversations with each other. I'm kind of curious, Michael, from your perspective, as you joined the Reclaiming Man family back in November, December, what was it about the types of conversations we started having that were so attractive?
Yeah, you mentioned at the very top of the podcast that what you were seeking is seeking you. And I had been spending tons of hours of my life reading fiction and fantasy and sci-fi mostly. The same trope, different cast. And I'm
Young
not,
boy, coming of age tale,
yeah, and I'm
some
not
dark
like, I'm
evil
not
villain.
exaggerating when I say well over 1,000 books.
Mhm.
And I got to this point where I realized the amount of time that I was spending. It was purely for escapism. I was losing the entertainment value was diminishing,
Mhm.
right? The utility was going down. And so I made the decision I'm going to spend this whole next year ditching fantasy and sci-fi. And this was back last year. So I started to read books that were life-changing books. And unsurprisingly, my life started changing. And so one of the books that I read by a guy named Napoleon Hill was Think and Grow Rich. And fascinating book written in 37. I won't go into it too much here, but one of the key components of generating wealth in your life, he says, is to build a mastermind, and not a criminal mastermind, but a combination.
We
A
have to say
combination.
that publicly. It doesn't
Right.
mean that behind the scenes we're not planning
Yeah.
a heist.
Yeah. And so this concept of a mastermind was finding people in your life that had shared goals for growth, shared ambition. And so I started looking, and I was surprised how quickly it happened. Within a month, I noticed a social media post that Scott, you put up, I think on Instagram originally, and somehow I saw it because Facebook was emailing me telling about how I was missing out on my brother's life. And somehow Scott's post got in there as well.
Well, hey,
Because
brother
I had
from
been,
another mother.
yeah, I've been off social media for a couple of years. But my point is, like, we get to this point where I'm looking for a mastermind. I'm looking to create like this group of people who can generate a catalyst for me starting to achieve and realize success in my life, which I used to think success was like the state that I get to. And so I changed my definition of success after reading another book, of course, to the progressive realization of an ideal. And when I met you guys, it was new experiences that I was starting to have as a result of the change of mindset that I had. And not only were they just new experiences, they were very fulfilling new experiences because we were all various different places, but trying to do hard things, trying to overcome. And so I think you guys really helped me unlock that. Really, I mean, cold plunges. Let's talk about cold plunges just for a minute. I hate cold water. I grew up wakeboarding, water skiing, tubing, all those things. And I'm in Minnesota. Like, we would go out in April and the water temperature was like 40 plus, just over 40 degrees. Honestly, it was a terrible idea to do this. And I would spend a whole day recovering. I'd fall in the water once wakeboarding, and I'd get out of the water and it would take me a day to recover. There's no way in hell you're getting me into cold water willingly. And this is a perfect example of what this group has done. I started doing cold plunges, and a couple months later, find myself loving getting into a bathtub that's 40 degrees or less.
Well, that hardship piece is really important
Yeah.
because the reality is life is, if you're waiting around for life to be easy, you're going to die and it never will have happened. You're just going to get to death. And so life is always going to be hard. And in fact, I would contend that a good life is one that gets increasingly hard and more challenging as you move along, because otherwise it just gets boring.
Yeah.
And so if life is going to be hard no matter what, I would much rather be in control of that hardship. And as Michael said, that cold plunge was a great example. My wife and I started cold plunging in November, and I don't really like being cold either. Our pool is in about 40 degrees right now. It's not pleasant. At least it wasn't pleasant. But there's an interesting phenomenon with something known as growth mindset, which says when you start to treat the act of pursuing something, so in this case, going into the cold plunge or physically going through the discomfort of working out, when that action is the reward,
Yeah,
like if success without fulfillment is ultimate failure, it's impossible to not be fulfilled when the act of doing something is fulfilling, right?
exactly. I mean, that's like, even think about like the context of the podcast. It's tough for us to do this first episode.
Mhm.
It's challenging for us to change how we're communicating, and it feels painful a little bit,
Yeah.
right?
We've probably done what, 3 hours of recording in the
Yeah.
aggregate, maybe more.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is painful.
There'll be a good outtake reel. Yeah, I agree to what you were mentioning earlier. I just thought it was so interesting, the reward of like doing something hard. I always think about, I used to, if I had to leave work, say at 6 a.m., I'd get up at 5:40, brush my teeth, and kind of go out the door and just be groggy all day. And it was like, it was easy to get up like 20 minutes before leaving, but then the rest of the day was hard. Where now, if I get up at 5 o'clock, get in the cold plunge, shower, come read a bit, it's like getting up at 5 a.m. is hard, but the rest of the day is an absolute fucking breeze. So I think that concept of doing something hard at the beginning and benefiting from it is so important. And it's never going to be easy. We were talking about cold plunges. I've been doing them since December, and every morning they're hard. Every
Mhm.
morning I look out at that water and I think, I don't have to do it today. I don't really want to do it today. And then I hear Scott saying, get in the water, motherfucker. In my head, he's like, you bitch. And I do. And then once
Yeah.
I'm in the water, it's like, yeah, why would I ever skip this? It's like, feels so good.
It's this idea that if you want to have world-class self-confidence, you have to keep the promises you make to yourself.
Yeah.
And if the promises you make to yourself are, you're going to eat 4 donuts today instead of 5. I mean, I guess if you're eating 5 on the regular, that's a good thing. It's progress, right? But if the promises that you're making to yourself, uh, initially, if you're not used to making promises or keeping the promises you make to yourself, they do have to be small gains. But as you start to evolve the level of those promises, that's part of the promises that we all make to ourselves each day is we're going to cold plunge. And part of the reason why we continue to do it, I mean, there are definitely health benefits and other things, whatever, and it's like a shot of espresso in the morning. But I think more than anything, it's because we made a promise to do something hard that day. And ultimately, do you want to be at cause or effect with hardship in your life? Bad shit's going to happen to all of us. And the people who go through life complacent and never challenging themselves, always content with the status quo, when hardship and adversity strikes, they're going to flounder.
Yeah.
But people who have made a point of building the mental toughness to do hard things on a regular basis, they're going to be much more resilient. And I think, at least for me, that's a big part of why I do cold plunges, but more broadly, why I've connected with each of you is because we share this vision of wanting to do hard things, not only do hard things, but wanting to learn how to enjoy doing hard things. Because I think once you have that mindset, that growth trajectory, then it's not about whether or not you're going to accomplish your goal in a specific timeline. I can wrap this with one other quote that I really love from The More Complete Beast. And he says, "You're alive now, men. Don't spend your life waiting for something to happen, for some chance occurrence, or for someone else to do something for you, for someone to free you, so that you can finally be who you want to be." That's slave thinking. You might as well wait for your reward in heaven. Do what you can while you can.
Hey,
And
man.
I would say
Yeah.
that is why Reclaiming Man exists. It's because the three of us have realized that we're not going to live a life of complacency. We're not just going to sit around and wait for this empire of nothing in which we live to crumble and dissolve around us. Like, we're going to do what we can when we can. We're going to make bold mistakes, and we're going to show the three of us the thing that we've been looking for and the thing that we've tried to buy.
Yeah.
And we're going to develop that ourselves. And ultimately, success is having deep and meaningful relationships in my life, and we've already accomplished that. All right, and that's it for this episode of Reclaiming Man. We hope that you gained a new insight into the potential of brotherhood and community. Be sure to join us next week as we dive deeper into the journey of reclaiming freedom. The journey of a man is not easy, but it's worth the effort. Through determination and collaboration, you can take control of your life and achieve the greatness that you are capable of. Together, we can use our collective voice to challenge society's expectations and create a better tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in.